Howdy Beans, sometimes this podcast contains adult content, like the odd and maybe a few, so view discretion is advised, but I always say, enjoy the show nonetheless. Howdy Beans, and welcome back to another exciting, ghoulish and terrifying episode of the Howdy Beans podcast. You join me today on a very special episode, and for many, many reasons, because I absolutely love and adore this series, this company, the studio that makes this video game and makes all other video games. I've played them all apart from their original Max Payne games, but apart from that, I'm enthralled with this studio. They're one of my favorites of all time. So it's an absolute pleasure and honor to not only do this episode, but it also be an episode that I do to wrap up Halloween. So I'm so excited. I've been waiting all year to play this game. Like literally, it has been on the side, in view constantly for me. Of like, oh no, Halloween's not here yet. I've got to distract myself. I've got to do something else. I've got to go and play Gollum and hurt my eyes and make myself ill. You know, just to put myself off from playing this game. What that game is Alan Wake 2 from 2023. Oh, I am just enthralled. I am so excited. And it's just one that I've just been waiting for so long. So to finally get my hands on it today and to be able to play it and give it a go for you guys and for the podcast is an absolute dream. But before we get into all of that and more, I want to do a bit of housekeeping, the final housekeeping for this Halloween season. It's time to kind of take down the cobwebs, take down all the spiders and clear up a little bit and make everything look a lot more nicer, a lot more crisper as we go in nicely into November and eventually we get into the Christmas season. So you could help me out by following me on Twitter at howdybeans_pod. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Same if you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to follow and rate the podcast. As of recording this, I'm currently at 139 followers on Spotify. So I would really appreciate it if we can get to 140. My goal for this year is to get to 140 followers on Spotify, and I'm really close. So I need one more person. So if you're listening, you haven't followed yet, please do. It bumps me off the Spotify algorithm, which means my episodes and content gets seen by a lot more people, and then hopefully more followers and people and things and opportunities will come. So please do follow on there. Also, one more thing, I am on TikTok now. I know the old man is now on TikTok. I know. So if you search the Howdy Beans podcast, you can check me out there. One thing I have been doing all Halloween is through every single day of Halloween from the 1st of October till now the end, the 31st of October when this will be coming out, I am going to be reviewing one Halloween movie every single day. So if you're not following me on TikTok and you want to hear my reviews on shorter sort of classics and some non-classic horror movies, then by all means follow me there. So as I mentioned, this is my Halloween special bonus episode. One thing I will say before we get into sort of Alan Wake 2, I have reviewed Alan Wake 1. I reviewed it earlier this year at the sort of around the beginning. I think it was what games I played for February or what games I played for March. One of those ones, but I played it early in the year. It was the remastered one. But to be honest, my love of Alan Wake goes back further than that. I remember playing Alan Wake 2 on the Xbox 360 and getting absolutely terrified. Playing the demo, getting terrified, dying and be like, oh no, I can't play this. That was my first ever experience. It was the demo, and it was just, I'm too much of a chicken. I can't do this, and I remember running away. And again, it was like that for a lot of survival horror. Like it was the same with Dead Space. I remember playing the demo for Dead Space, absolutely getting terrified, not knowing how it would go. Because the thing is with Alan Wake and Dead Space, their game mechanics are somewhat similar in terms of you can't just shoot the enemy. You have to, like with Dead Space, you have to cut off the limbs before the enemy would die. Otherwise, it's just going to keep coming at you. It's the same kind of with Alan Wake, was the fact of you have to use the torch. If you don't use the torch and get the darkness, this aura that's around them, if you don't do that, they're just going to keep coming at you, you know. So you have to be a bit of strategy every time that you kill somebody. And again, being young, I didn't understand that. I couldn't do it. It was beyond me, complex. It was too much. And I ran away. And I remember years and years later, my brother got a controller for his Xbox One. and it came with a free code. No, sorry, it came with a free game, which was Quantum Break. And I'd never played Quantum Break. It was one of the new sort of big sort of push games that were coming out with the Xbox One when it first was released. And my brother was like, okay, tell you what, you get the controller, I'll play the game, and then, you can have sort of the game back. And so I had the game, and it came with a copy of Alan Wake 1, which was like a download code, and it came with all the DLC. I said to my brother, like, do you want this? He said, like, I'm not interested. He really, at the age, he just wanted the controller. He wasn't interested in the games at all. So I remember I took sort of the Alan Wake code and the DLC for it, put that into my Xbox, took that, played Quantum Break, absolutely blown away by Quantum Break. Quantum Break's a game that no one ever talks about. Maybe one day I'll look into it. It's a brilliant game. It's so fascinating and fantastic, and really, I'd say possibly got me, lighted that spark and lighted that interest in Remedy. So I played Quantum Break twice, absolutely loved and enjoyed it, played it 2 different times for the 2 different endings. And then I went back to Alan Wake and I played that, and I was sold. When I was going through Alan Wake the first time, I was sold. I was enthralled. That it was something that I'd never seen before. It was a way of telling a story. It was a way of doing an experience, and the way of playing a game that was completely different. I'd never sort of saw before. Like, it literally just blew me away. And like, now being an older as well, I understood how the game worked and the mechanics. And playing for like the DLC, that was terrifying, but also extended Alan's story. And then I've used the analogy loads of times, but I felt like Woody in Toy Story 2 when they're watching Woody's Roundup. He's like, oh, hey, next episode. And then people go, well, they never made another one. And I'm like, well, why? And I'm like, well, they just didn't. There's many reasons, but they just never made a sequel, to be honest. Alan Wake just didn't do as well as they wanted to, so they never made another one. I'm like, so it was one of those where I waited for years for it. And in sort of the interim, we had, again, like I said, Quantum Break, we had Control, which was brilliant. Control is just one of them games that I'm like, if you haven't played it, play Control. If you've got Game Pass, it's on there, play it. It comes with all the DLC as well. And one of the DLC is Night Springs DLC, is the Alan Wake DLC, which again, for me, was brilliant and it was fantastic. And what I loved about Control is that if you took the time, which I did, reading all of the notes, you learnt more about what was going on, this connected universe. But there was also hints to the Black Lake, to Alan Wake, and things that were going on there, and that the Control was aware of it, and they were looking for Alan. They couldn't find him; he's disappeared, and they're trying to find what happened there. And they call it the Night Springs sort of situation. And I'm just like, what? My brain was just expanding. Like, oh my god, like, it's an expanding universe, and the DLC, you had to see Alan, what he's doing, what he's going through, that he's still trapped. And then they announced they're doing Alan Wake 2, and my heart just burst. Was, oh my god, the floodgates came out. Like, I can't wait. And when this game came out, I didn't buy it at first. Reason being, it's not because I didn't want to buy it, it's the fact I've had so much to do. But when they announced it, about a couple of months after they announced it, they announced that they were going to release Alan Wake 2, a deluxe edition physically, because when this game came out, it came out only as digital. So I was like, well, I'll wait until the deluxe edition comes out on physical, because I like having a physical disc, and it comes with all the DLC and all the sort of extra sort of deluxe cosmetic costumes and stuff like that. And that's the one I got. I think I got it last year around October, November, and it's been on my shelf staring at me for all that time, because I knew I didn't want to touch it. I knew I wanted to do a review of Alan Wake 1, the remaster, which I did, again, as I mentioned, back in sort of February, March. And then I knew I wanted to look into Alan Wake 2 for Halloween. So it's just been one of those that for years I've been waiting for it. I finally got it, and I've happened to put myself off, like, no, don't touch it yet. Wait for the right moment. Wait for the special time. And I feel like the end of Halloween is that right time because this game, from what I've heard, it's completely different from this. This game's more survival horror. And now I'm becoming a fan of survival horror, getting back into playing Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 remake. I've got Resident Evil 4 remake that I will get around to playing and reviewing eventually. Again, I had planned to do it this year, but because Alan Wake 2, I was like, no, I'm playing that instead. So sorry. But also playing through Dead Space, playing through The Evil Within, like, I'm getting better and more braver at playing survival horror, and I'm actually really, really enjoying them. So I'm excited to see what that is. And again, who doesn't want to be terrified during Halloween? It's hard. The whole point of the well, it wasn't the original point, but it's the point of Halloween is terrified and be scared and spooky stuff. So I'm really excited for that. But yeah, one thing that I've done to get myself ready for this review is, like I said, I played Alan Wake 1, but I also went back and I replayed Control. I'd already had the game, but I went back on the Game Pass and I replayed the Ultimate Edition with all the DLC. Reading everything I can, just getting back into this world, because there is a DLC for this one, which I think is called the Lake House expansion, which also deals with Control, links back in with Control. And because this game did so well, Alan Wake 2, they're now looking at doing Control 2. So it's an interconnected universe, which my brain, again, can't quantify. And I really hope that when you get Control 2, that we're going to get Quantum Break 2, because I want to see, because the way that ends, I want to see what happens next. I want to see the continuation of Quantum Break and how that links in with Control and the Bureau, and all this jazz. I'm like, I love Remedy. My heart bleeds for them because they are so brilliant, but they're such an underrated developer. They make such creative and incredible worlds and stories and characters. They've just never caught a break. Like, their games do well, but they just don't do well enough. And I just never understood why, because every game they make is completely different and new and fresh and just unique. And I'm just like, they're so good. They're so good. So yeah, I just wanted to just spend the moment at the beginning of this review, just talking about my love of Remedy and about Alan Wake and the beginning. I just wanted to really express my love, because we all know it's going to be a long review. So I just wanted to just get that love out right now at the beginning to show you all, like, I'm serious. But another reason why it's sort of taken me so long to get round to playing this game is because I'm waiting for it to get dark. September, I wanted to originally play it during September, so it's now the 2nd of October that I record this. But originally I wanted to play this during September, so it was ready for October. But we had a really, really bright September. So now it is October and it's getting darker later and stuff like that. I can finally kind of get into that mood, turn the lights off, headphones on, and play Alan Wake 2 and completely crap myself, but be also completely enthralled in the continuation of Alan's story and how it leads on. And oh my God, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. Anyway, to get on with the actual introduction, to get on with the review. So, the back of the box synopsis goes as follows. So, Sega Anderson, an accomplished FBI agent, arrives to investigate a string of ritualistic murders in a small town community. Alan Wake, a lost writer, pens a dark story to shape the reality around him. These two heroes in two separate realities are somehow connected. Can they break out to be the heroes they need to be? Doesn't that just sound fantastic? That just sounds brilliant. That's me all over. Not just because I'm an Alan Wake fan. I'm tickled pink. That's color coded for Luke. Twice now I've used that this season especially for Halloween. Like, if I had 2 nickels, if I had a nickel every time I've done it, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. Anyway, that is incredible. I love that. As for sort of the game's development, so there's quite a bit for the game's development. So pre-production goes as follows. So Remedy Entertainment released Alan Wake in 2010. Learning from Max Payne, they wrote Alan Wake in a way that allows additional story to be told through sequels and further installments. The team began discussing sequel ideas after Alan Wake was shipped, which would continue to star Alan Wake as the protagonist, but also explored the stories of the supporting characters, including Wake's friend Barry Wheeler and Sheriff Sarah Breaker. A prototype was created to show off the gameplay of Alan Wake 2 when the studio was showing the game to potential publishers. The game would have been a direct sequel to Alan Wake, featuring new enemies and new gameplay mechanics, such as being able to rewrite reality, which were showcased in the prototype. Ultimately, though, Remedy pitched the project to Alan Wake publisher Microsoft Studios. Microsoft, however, at the time was not interested in a sequel and instead tasked Remedy to create a new game. This ultimately became Quantum Break, released in 2016. It included, alongside other Easter eggs to Alan Wake, a short live-action film titled Alan Wake Return. It features 2 FBI agents, one named Alex Casey, investigating the reappearance of Wake, which had been created by Remedy as to help promote a sequel to publishers. The other FBI agent was Sega Anderson, who was portrayed by Malamiva, who was later recast by Melanie Liburd. Most of the ideas for Alan Wake 2 were implemented in American Nightmare, which is a brilliant little side content of Alan Wake. If you've never played it, it's fantastic. It went under the radar of a lot of people, but it's really, really good. A downloadable follow-up to Alan Wake. Remedy CEO Tero Vitula stated that after further sequels to Alan Wake would require Microsoft Studios approval as the publisher rights holder, though Remedy otherwise owns all other intellectual property rights to the series. When Quantum Break was announced, Sam Lake explained that a sequel to Alan Wake had been postponed, and Alan Wake was not financially successful enough to receive the funding they needed to continue developing the sequel at the time. Director of Communications Thomas Pua stated in April 2019 that Remedy had briefly returned to work on an Alan Wake property about 2 years prior, but the effort did not work out and the company was booked for the next few years. Between their own new game Control, supporting Smilegate on its game Crossfire X, and another new project, Pua said that the only limited factor for them to work on an Alan Wake sequel was time, money, and resources. Despite that, Lake continued to be part of the team in Remedy to brainstorm ideas and work on different incarnations for Alan Wake 2. Internally, the project was codenamed Project Big Fish, which represented its importance and significance to Remedy. In the second downloadable content pack for Control, Remedy's next game following Quantum Break, Alan Wake was featured as a character. According to Remedy, Control established the Remedy Connected Universe, which is shared by both Control and Alan Wake, and that the new game released by the studio would also be set on this universe. Remedy fully acquired the rights to Alan Wake from Microsoft in July 2019, including a one-time royalty payment of about $2.5 million for the game series past sales, which helps pave the way for a sequel. Remedy had signed with Epic Game Publishing in 2021 for the release of two games. Remedy released Alan Wake Remastered in October 2021 as the first game of their partnership, while the second larger game, Alan Wake 2, was announced at the Game Awards in 2021. Remedy's communications director Thomas Pua said that Epic allowed Remedy to create the game they wanted to make with minimal publisher interference while providing extensive feedback to help improve the game. So that's a bit of pre-production. As for the production, with Epic as their publisher, Remedy began production on Alan Wake 2 in August 2019. According to Sam Lake, the game would be powered by Remedy's own Northlight engine, which is a brilliantly powerful and incredible engine, which they use for Quantum Break and Control. Lake also stated that Alan Wake 2 would be a survival horror game, as opposed to Alan Wake, which Lake said was an action game with horror elements. Though he did not explain the difference between the two, Lake further added that players will not need to play the previous games in order to understand Alan Wake 2. I did anyway, because I'm a completion whore and I love this series. Anyway, the sequel continued to draw inspiration from the works of David Lynch, particularly Twin Peaks. According to Lake, he sought influence specifically from the third season of Twin Peaks, whereas the first entry was influenced by earlier seasons. Also, influential were more detective themes from works like Seven, The Silence of the Lambs, and True Detective, while literacy influence included House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danzwisky, Luna Park by Brett Easton-Ellis, the New York trilogy, Stephen King's The Dark Tower series, as well as his memoir on writing a memoir of the craft. Lake said that this approach to Alan Wake 2 was bolstered by the success of the film Effing Everywhere All at Once. Still haven't watched that film, by the way. Remedy confirmed the game would remain in the third-person perspective despite the switch to survival horror, and that both Ika Ville and Matthew Portea would return to provide the appearance of the voice of Alan, respectively. Other cast include Melanie Liebud as the live-action and voice of Saga Anderson, David Haywood as both the live-action and voice of Mr. Door, James McCarthy and Lake as the voice and live-action appearance of Alex Casey, respectively. Further, Alan Wake 2 includes cameos from characters from other people, but I won't mention them here because, again, completely spoilers, so I won't mention them at all. So moving on. So Alan's mission, Initiation 4, We Sing, has the player guide Alan through a surreal set with the characters, right? But I won't go into that one either. Overall, the game took 13 years to develop. In an interview, Sam Lake said this was because the sequel contains many characters and locations, as well as a continuation of the supernatural lore established and introduced in the original Alan Wake. The budget for the game reportedly stands at $70 million, with $50 million dollars in development and an additional 30 million spent on marketing. This is considered to make the game one of the most expensive cultural projects in history of Finland, which is incredible. And that's it really for the development. There's a couple of things about the graphics technology and post-launch sort of updates and that, but I won't get into that now. Usually at this point, I would talk about my experience with the game so far, but I haven't played it. Reason being is I wanted to get the introduction out first so I could spend all of Halloween, all of October, just really getting into this game, getting my claws in, getting my fingers in, and really just experiencing Alan Wake 2 as fresh as possible. You know, like I don't want to be like, oh, I like this bit, I like that bit. I just want to go in being like, I play the game, and then once the next bit you'll hear in a while, the actual review part, is my just full experience, my full force sort of like, this is what I thought, this is what I love, this is what I didn't like, and blah blah blah. So that's what I want. I wanted it to be virginal. I wanted it to be pure. I wanted it to be new. I didn't want to have to play a little bit, stop, do the introduction, and keep going. So I've got nothing to say about the gameplay itself personally, but I am excited, as you can tell. I love this series. I love this studio. I have no doubt it's going to be a cracker. It's more so a horror, so it's going to be terrifying. I'm going to be scared. It's going to be spooky, creepy. But overall, what I'm looking forward to the most, generally, is just seeing where Alan is now. After playing Alan Wake and then playing American Nightmare and then playing the Alan Wake DLC in Control, and kind of get an idea of where Alan is and where he's going and the darkness, and he's being manipulated to, and he's trying to find his way to get out and to save his wife and all this stuff that Alan's doing. I've been waiting years just to, not a conclusion, because I don't want it to be conclude here. I would love another one, even though I haven't played this game. I want more of Alan, basically. I want him to be a continuous character. But I just want to see where his story goes next, of where he is. If he's still trapped, how has that evolved? And has he got more powerful? Has he got more control over his reality? Or is he fell more into despair? So these are the things that I want to know. These are the questions that I have. So I'm really, really excited. I'm really interested. And I can't wait, to be honest. So I'm going to go off now and play Alan Wake 2. And then when I come back, I'm going to give my first impressions, talk about the story, gameplay, the art, style, collectibles, overall thoughts, and we'll wrap up Halloween quite nicely. So until then, I'll catch you all in a minute. See you then. And welcome back, everybody. I'm just going to jump straight in. This game is fucking brilliant. It is incredible. I love it. I will even put my hand on my heart and my soul and say this is the best game Remedy has ever made. I am in awe. I basically sat and played this from the 1st of October till yesterday, the 18th of October, and I have played it religiously every single day. I have put... it says on the game I've put about 18 hours in. On Xbox, it says I put an hour and 5 minutes, not an hour, a day and 5 minutes, or a day and 8 minutes, or whatever. The point I'm trying to make is I've put a lot of hours into this game. I have devoured it. I've done absolutely everything. And I am here to tell you now that don't listen to this review. Go off and play it. If you haven't played Alan Wake 1, play that. If you haven't played Control or Quantum Break, go play them. Play all the modern Remedy games, then come back and play Alan Wake 2. Not because I'm going to spoil anything, because I'll try my best to stay away from spoilers, because if you are a Remedy fan, and if you played all of those games, there is a lot in here for fans. This game is a love letter from Remedy to the fans of thank you for waiting for so long. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for playing all of our games. Here is little bits of nuggets and Easter eggs and hints of potential futures and cross pollination and multiverse and stuff like that. Here's everything that here's basically a thank you in a game, in sort of the wrappings of Alan Wake, and it works and it's brilliant and it's incredible. And like I said, if you're a fan of everything that Remedy's done recently and in the past, you will want to go into this game knowing as little as possible so you can have those surprises. And trust me, if you've played all of those games before, you will have a lot of surprises. And that is what I loved about this game so much, was just the fact of it's like an onion. There is so much to unwrap that once you feel like you understand what's going on, another layer comes in and you are just like, I don't know what's going on, but I fucking love it. You know what I mean? It's brilliant. It's incredible. And I'm just going to gush about this game for a good few minutes now. So just get ready for that. But yeah, generally, if you haven't played Alan Wake, any of the Alan Wake games or any of the Remedy games, and you are interested, I would recommend now just to go back and play them and come back to this review whenever you can. And that's the honest truth, is the fact that they're just that good, and this game's that good that you want to go in knowing as little as possible. Again, that being said, I will stay away from spoilers as much as I can. But yeah, it's fucking brilliant, and it's one of my favorite Remedy games today. It was Control for a very, very long time, but now Alan Wake 2 has taken over, and I'm just in love. I am, and when it ended, I didn't want it to end, but I am excited for what is to come now. And again, I'm not going to talk about the ending, but I'm just very, very excited for whatever Remedy does next. So that's my sort of first impressions. Take it or leave it. It is very, very positive. I'm going to keep the first impressions short because, again, I'm trying to stay away from spoilers. But yeah, it's really, really good, and you should go play it. As for sort of my thoughts on the story, so I want to backpedal a bit. So I've been waiting, years for this game. As I said in introduction, Alan Wake, I played it and adore that game, and I've recently replayed the remake. Again, playing Quantum Break, playing Control, playing through those games again to kind of get myself back into that Remedy mindset of how they make games, how their games play, as well as reintroduce myself to the world and characters, because I knew going into Alan Wake from a lot of people saying that this is what Remedy have said themselves, that they now have the opportunity to make the game that they've always wanted to make, where they have an interconnected universe. And I know people turn their noses up to metaverse, and not metaverse, the multiverse, because of the fact of what other companies have done and other movie studios have done and stuff like that. A lot of people turn their nose up to it, but I always defend the multiverse stories once it's done well, and here it's done incredibly well and incredibly cleverly. That got me excited, so that's why I went back and played them all. And to having to wait all these years to find out about Alan Wake, like the last time that I got to see anything with Alan Wake was in Control through the DLC, the AWE, the Alan Wake expansion. That I got to learn more about what was happening to Alan and his experience with the Dark Place and Mr. Scratch and all that. And then to finally be able to play this game was such... it was just beautiful. It was wonderful. And the stories, well, like I said, I don't want to go into spoilers, but the long and short of the story is that I'm trying to think how to explain this without going into spoilers. So basically, you play the game as a woman, an FBI agent called Saga Anderson. And she and her partner, Detective Alex Casey, they work together to try to figure out what's going on in Bright Falls. So like 12 or 13 years have passed since the events of Alan Wake. And Bright Falls hasn't been the same since. And it never really has been the same. There's always been something wrong and something odd about Bright Falls going back decades, even back to the 70s with Thomas Zane, which if you played Alan Wake, you know who that is. And there's always just Cauldron Lake has always been a very sort of weird hot zone, but it's not since what happened with Alan Wake that things have been going a lot more in the direction of dark and odd and bad and very horrifying. So there's been a murder. There's a cult called the Cult of the Tree, and they are basically, you don't know what they are, but when you start the game, they're worshippers of the Taken, or so you think. And you are, as the FBI agent, have got to go in to solve this mystery, and it does play out very much like X-Files. You go do the detective stuff. You've got a Mind Palace, which I'll get into talking about when I talk about gameplay, and you can work out what's going on in the case. You get clues and stuff like that, and as you play as Saga, you are trying to uncover what's going on, and then you find out how it links in with the disappearance with the writer Alan Wake and what's going on with him. Then you have this game is split up into two games, basically. It's basically two games into one. You've got Saga's story and Saga's game and gameplay, which is completely different. Then you've got Alan Wake's story and the continuation of his story, which is a separate game, but is also completely different in terms of gameplay. But both of them work seamlessly. Like, it's a very seamless, integrated story, which again, I know this is a bit confusing, but trust me, when I get to the gameplay, I'll try my best to explain it. And then you've got Alan Wake's story. Alan Wake, he's still stuck in the dark place, but he's trying to find his way to get out. He's trying to find his way to how to write himself out this story, because that's what he's been trying to do for the last 13 years. He's writing loads of different manuscripts and different pages and trying to change the dark place, because the dark place is a realm of creativity, and that it sucks in creatives, whether it be actors, writers, poets, singers, any sort of artist. It sucks them in, and it manipulates their art, and it creates reality. So if you're a writer of stories and horror stories, it will make your horrifying. It's like, imagine if you put Stephen King in Cauldron Lake. You'd have Pennywise and Cujo and, Church the cat and all that kind of stuff. You'd have all them running around. It'd be absolutely terrifying. But that's what this entity does. It brings things into reality in the best way to explain it. So Alan Wake's stuck in the dark place. You've got Saga trying to figure out what's going on, and they interweave with each other. And I don't really want to say any more because because one of the great things about this book, this game, is the sort of solving the cases and figuring stuff out and learning how it all intertwines. And I was just in awe. The whole thing, I was just like, oh my god, my jaw was on the floor constantly. I couldn't believe the twists and turns it was going. I couldn't believe where it was going. The way Alan's story goes, where Saga's story goes, and how Saga's connected to all this, and how Alan's connected to all this, and then all the different side characters that were side characters in the first game are now main characters, and how it links in with all the other games as well. And like, it's not really a spoiler, especially if you've played Control. If you played Control, you'll know this. And again, this is why I said play those games first. But also, it's hinted at already by Remedy that the Federal Bureau of Control, which is the bureau in the game Control, which is basically kind of like the X-Files but like more extreme, they have a presence as well. So how it links in with Control, how it links to the old house, how it links in to thresholds and stuff like that. My mind is just explosion. You see that meme of that guy who's got the turtleneck and glasses, and he's just like, whoa, as his mind's exploding. That was me for the whole game. I was like, oh my god, I just love how Remedy make games. They the thing is about gaming nowadays. I don't want to go on a rant, so I'm going to try and sort of contain myself because I've got a lot to talk about with Alan Wake. But things with modern gaming is the fact of so many video game studios and so many games play it safe nowadays. It's really hard to find games that are not playing safe, that are doing something different, that are trying new things, that are always on the cusp of like, let's try this, let's try that, let's do this, let's do that. You know what I mean? Like it's always just be like, no, let's not do that. Let's just do what we know what will sell, which is all right, but it gets boring when every single game you play is cookie cutter. You know what I mean? Whereas Remedy, every single game is different. They do one thing in one game and it might work, it might not work, but they'll sit on it, they'll try to work it out, they'll try to figure it out, and then the next game or the game after that, they'll implement it again, and it works and it's seamless. There's a lot of live action moments of this, like short little movies that work in this. Well, I remember playing Quantum Break. And that was when they first introduced it, because they had a whole TV show that linked in with Quantum Break. And as you played through Quantum Break, it would stop and then it would play a live action sort of short TV show that was about 20, 30 minutes long, which would react to your choices in the game. And don't get me wrong, it was a brilliant idea and it was fantastic. But the problem is the fact of I wanted to play the game and not watch a episode of a TV show. That's why it didn't work. Whereas they've managed to take that, reincorporate it, And now they've done it in Alan Wake 2. It works and it's seamless. And it's one of those where like Remedy are just doing things that no one has to do. And this is why I love them, because they just try new things. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. We will rework it and we'll try it again. We won't just give up on it. If it's a good idea, we'll keep trying. And then it just I love Remedy so much. And going back, sort of go onto Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2 and the gameplay, I would have been happy. This is my genuine, honest opinion. I would have been happy with Alan Wake 2 if they had just redone Alan Wake 1. And what I mean by that is the fact of Alan Wake 1 is so great. The idea and concept that it's not your standard survival horror. It's not your standard shooter. You can't just shoot the Taken. You have to, get rid of their darkness. So you have to shine a light on them. And once the darkness is off them, then you can shoot them and kill them. But you've also got to be smart and conserve your ammo, because you'll run out of batteries. So you've got to be clever. You've got to use flares. You've got to use flare guns. You've got to use flashbangs and things like this, to conserve your sort of batteries and stuff like that. And again, it was revolutionary for the time. It's still revolutionary now because nobody's done it since. And it's great, right? I would have been happy if Alan Wake 2 was just that, but newer graphics, maybe a few more extra things. But if they had done that, I wouldn't have bothered me at all. It really wouldn't have. I would have been happy with that. But what they've done here is they've done something new. And it's brilliant. I'm going to separate them both into talking about Alan and Saga, because like I said, their gameplay is completely different. And I'm going to try away from spoilers. So as I mentioned with Saga, she's the detective and she has a mind palace. Now, anybody who is a Sherlock Holmes fan knows what a mind palace is. For anybody that doesn't know, a mind palace is a real technique that anybody can do. And it's basically where, imagine you have a place that you go to in your mind, and it could be an office, it can be your bedroom, it can be anything that you want it to be. And in there, you've got files, the memories, and you can access these files, and it's a way of remembering tons of information. You can go into your file drawer, and you can pull out a file, and you'll be like, oh, I remember back when I was 12 and I did this and this happened and that happened, and you close that file and you scroll through, oh, that remember happened when I was 32 for my birthday, this happened. That's the sort of idea of a mind palace. The way it's used here is, you go into crime scenes and you go around the crime scene, you look for evidence. Then you go into your mind palace and you've got a case board all over the wall, very much kind of like string with pictures and stuff like that. And you're trying to piece these cases together. You're trying to think of like, if I put that there, that connects to this and that connects to that. And majority of the game I spent most of that game just in the mind palace, just okay, that goes there, right, if this goes there. And it got me more sort of connected, because as I'm putting the threads together, figuring out, like, the game's like telling me, I'm figuring out myself, I'm connecting the dots myself. As I'm figuring out, I'm like, oh god, that connects to this, or that person's connected to this, or because you'd go through the game, you'd be like, okay, so how does this person link to this, what is their connection to it? And as you find more evidence and you're linking it, Saga's having these moments where she's like, oh God, that's there and that's there. But you can also do profiling as well. So once you meet somebody and you talk to them, you go into your mind palace and you have a case on the desk and you look at this and you can go, well, you'll have notes next to it, and you click on one of the notes and then you do a profiling on them. But like, this person's lying to me, or this person's telling me the truth. And then once you figure that, you can go back to them. You can say, well, you were lying to me. And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, oh, well, blah, 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 all this evidence. And so it's like X-Files, but like CSI as well. So you've got that side of it. The combat as well is great. It's not so much as what you have with sort of Alan Wake 1, where you've got to shine a light. Like, you still do that, but you're not. I don't know how to explain it. So basically, you've got a bar on the bottom of the screen for your energy that you can do with your torch. And in the last game, it was just like a bar. So like, as long as you held it down, it would slowly start to tick down. With this one, you've got nodules. You've got little sort of sockets. You've got about 4 or 5 of them. And when you hit an enemy, you just blast them with a high beam of your light, and then it will do it. You don't have to hold it down for ages like you did last time. It was just a beam, shum, and that's one socket. That's one little widget gone. And then you can sort of shoot them, headshot them. Again, one thing I want to mention as well, the gore is very visceral. Like, if you're up close and personal, you hit somebody with a shotgun, you just rip them to shreds. Like, you can actually see the muscle tendons and the bones in their arm and the ribs and all that with a shotgun blast. Or if you shoot an enemy in the head or in the arm, you will see the detail. Like it's so good. It's so good, so visceral, so brutal. I love it. So that's that's the combat, and that's the combat for Saga. And the combat is kind of the same for Alan Wake, but we'll get to Alan in a minute. So that's how you deal with the Taken in sort of the real world. So it's a more of a streamlined version of Alan Wake 1, but you're bombarded a lot more by a lot more enemies. So you've still got to be a lot more clever. You've got flares, you've got flashbangs, you've got different types of equipment that you can use to save things. You've got like rocket flares that are meant to shoot in the air like distress signals. You can use them as like explosives, so you can kill like a huge area of Taken when they attack you. There's other gameplay things as well in the real world, where there's like control, like I said, the Federal Bureau of Control are around, so they've been around Bright Falls, but you can also go to Cauldron Lake, you can go to, like I said, the Bright Falls town, you go to a place called Watery, so it's a lot more open world. There's a lot more places you can go to. You can find lunch boxes with collectibles, which I'll get onto that in a minute. I'm just going down my list. There's also, like I said, like Control say, there's also these things called rhymes. So the Federal Bureau of Control are basically there to experiment, to figure out what's going on with Cauldron Lake. And they realize that a lot of things on Cauldron Lake is down to creativity. So they're doing experiments, and this links into the collectibles. I'll go more details in the collectibles part. But they're trying to figure out, okay, how can we be creative? So they start doing rhymes. So there's puzzles you've got to figure out, which again, I'll talk about more of that when you get to collectibles. But the gameplay itself is smooth. It is fun. It's interesting. It's really taking the idea of, you are a detective, so you've got to be a detective. So you have the mind palace and all that that comes with it. And you have the combat as well, which is fun. And like Saga and the boss fights, like granted, the boss fights aren't difficult. They're like little puzzles in themselves. You got to figure out what's going on. And only one boss that I faced, which was a creepy old lady, which I'll talk about later. Which generally terrified me. Like, this game is survival horror. Well, Alan Wake 1 was kind of like horror mixed with like third-person shooting. This game is like pure survival horror. At times, it does feel like Resident Evil, And I wasn't scared for much of it, because I knew what I was getting into. Like, I've played a lot of survival horror now, so those games don't really affect me as much as they did, especially because it's third person as well, not first person. It's not as terrifying because, like, one thing I want to mention about with this game is the fact of, this game is dark, and I don't just mean it's dark in color. Like, it's dark. Like, at night, if you're in the woods, there's no lights. You're in the woods. The only light you have is your torch. So everything around you, realistically, is pitch black. It's not until you turn around that you shine a light, pardon the pun, on what you can see. And there were many moments when, like, I was just in the woods, dark night, it was raining. I've just turned my torch off, and I just sat there, and I'm in the pitch black. I'm in the woods, and I've got the sound of the rain and the music in the background, and it was terrifying. How quickly I turned that torch back on, and like you hear, I'm wearing headphones while I'm playing as well, so I'm hearing noises in the woods. And again, I've got 3D spatial audio in my headphones, so I'm getting a full 360 feeling of like. There's things in the woods crawling around me, and like my brain and my imagination starts taking over, as it would do if I was in real woods. You know what I mean? I was like, if I was actually there, my brain would be playing tricks on me. Like, there's a creature there, there's a creature there, there's a bear there, there's wolves there, there's things going to kill me, and there would be, because there are cultists in the woods. So there's cultists that are taken that are going to come and hunt you down and kill you, and they pop out of nowhere, and they're sneaking around. You've got wolves that have been affected as well, so wolves are sneaking around. So you got packs of wolves to worry about, and it's like you are in the woods, and it's dark and it's terrifying, and it's you know what I mean? So doing all of that as well with the gameplay and being swarmed and doing all the other puzzles, playing a Saga, is brilliant. And as I'm slowly peeling the onion back and seeing how everything links in, I'm just enthralled. I'm like, oh my god, like, I would have been happy with just Alan Wake 1, but they've reinvented it. They've taken the idea of what they did Alan Wake 1, really just exploded with it, pushed it further, simplified it a little bit when you don't have to spend as much time, taking down a darkness shields, and not using as much energy, but still having that challenge, still having a way you still have to be tactical, still have to be survival horror. You have a like, as you would in Resident Evil, you've got your little inventory, and you have to inventory manage, so you only have a certain amount of widgets, certain amount of spots, and you have to go and find cult stashes that might or might not have sort of inventory extensions that will give you more blocks, so you can have more things. So there are some weapons like, oh, I've do I want to use my shotgun or can I have my crossbow? Well, I've got no room for the crossbow because I've got loads of shotgun ammo or I've got loads of flares and health items. So what do I want to get rid of? Then I've got to go back and there's a shoebox. And I've got to put everything in my shoebox, which is basically just your overall sort of universal storage place where you can put all your storage stuff in. You can also find charms as well, which give you like added bonuses. So like you can do more damage at low health, or like there's a charm where like if you die, it will revive you instantly and it will give you like half health or full health and things like that. So there are just little things here and there that are like, it's like Remedy has seen what everybody else has done in survival horror, taken with it, reinvented it for themselves, but as defined it to be quite Remedy, but still survival horror. Taken Alan Wake 1, taken that and advanced on it, taken the idea and concept of the Dark Place and the Taken, redone all that for a modern audience. Everything is just newer and better and shinier, and it's just like, this is just more than what I asked for, but it doesn't matter because it's brilliant. It's more than I would have wanted, but I'm just so glad they did. I'm so glad they didn't get lazy and just like, you know what, we're going to do something new. Even though I would have been happy with the old stuff, I'm just so appreciative that they just reinvented the wheel over and over again, and they just perfected it and made it more and more rounder and better and cleaner, and it's just great. As for Alan Wake and his gameplay, so I've got to be careful here because when you start talking about what Alan Wake is up to, you go into spoiler territory. So I'm going to try and maybe stay away with sort of the story side of it. But Alan's still stuck in the Dark Place, as I mentioned, and he is in the Dark Realm. He is in sort of the Dark Place, and he is trying to figure out how to get out. He's trying to rewrite the manuscript, because one thing you can do in this game is that seamlessly you can change realities. So if you're playing a saga, you could play Saga's story like, if you wanted to, you wouldn't even have to touch Alan's story till the very end. I didn't. What I did is the fact of I played a bit of Saga, a bit of Alan, because what you can do, there's a place you can go where they're little safe areas you can go into, like safe rooms, and there'll be a bucket on the floor like a puddle, and it will let you switch realities. So you can play a bit of Saga story, and then you know what, I'll play a bit of Saga, I want to see what Alan's doing. So you can flick over to one of these buckets and go to see what Alan's doing, and then you've got another sort of story of going on what was going on with Alan. And again, you can play all of Saga's story and then play Alan's story at the very end, or you can play all of Alan's story. Then it'll eventually be a point of where Alan will go, well, I can't go any further because Saga it hasn't got to a certain point yet, or Saga needs me, or whatever. So you'll switch back to Saga, you'll get further in Saga's story, and then you'll go back to playing as Alan. So I love that fact, how you can just choose. You don't have to. You're not stuck, like you're not railroaded of like you've got to play a bit of Saga, then you got to play a bit of Alan, and so, like no, like you can choose. I love the idea of having that choice. Me personally, I played a bit of Saga. I was like, oh, I wonder what Alan's doing, and I'll play a bit of Alan until I was like, oh, I've played a bit enough of Alan now, and I'll go see what Saga's doing, or until the game told me I can't go any further. I've got to see what Saga's doing, and vice versa. And again, that's how I recommend it, is doing a bit of both, because then you get a bit of story from each person, because again, the stories are connected. So once you get it helps you to get a better understanding of what's going on both sides of the story. Anyway, talking about Alan. So, because like I say, he's stuck in the Dark Place, his episodes, and they are basically like episodes, are a bit different. And they're very weird. And this is, Alan is when it starts getting strange. So I'd say like Saga's very survival horror, very Resident Evil coded, her gameplay and her story. Whereas Alan's is very psychedelic, is very weird. You never know what's going on. You're in the Dark Place, so it's a universe or a dimension that doesn't make any sense. Buildings are appearing, buildings are disappearing. There's a guy there called Mr. Door. Is he in control of everything? I don't know. And you're on a TV show, you're on a chat show, and then you're not on a chat show, then you are on a chat show, but then you play one episode and it's like, okay, it's a musical episode, and it is a musical episode, and all around you've got live action video of Poets of the Fall, or as they're called in the games, Old Gods of Asgard. I love Poets of the Fall, by the way. I love them. Anyway, Old Asgard, and you've got them basically playing a musical around you while you're fighting Taken as Alan Wake, and the music is brilliant. Like there's one thing I didn't talk about, but the music is so good. But again, I'll get onto when I talk about sort of art and style. Like this is going to be a long review. I do apologize because there's so much to talk about this game. And so there's many moments in Alan's where it's like it's constantly changing, shifting. Like it's still survival horror. There's still moments where it's quite scary and you get a lot of jump scares. But it is very sort of like it's like I'm tripping. It's like I'm on acid. The whole thing. It's like it's just such a wild ride. Like I don't know what's going on. I'm tripping balls right now, but I fucking love it. You know what I mean? Like I am don't know what's up and what is down, but I don't care. You know, I'm just enthralled of what's going on. And to have that continuation of Alan's story, to see what he's going through and what's all his loved ones are going through and stuff like that, and how the world's changed since Alan has left. And stuff like that is great. His gameplay, his soul gameplay, is a lot like Saga's, but the only difference is where Saga's is dealing with the Taken. Alan's dealing with these dark forms. They're like ghosts. They're like wraiths. You know, they're just like ghostly shadows of people. And some of them will attack you, some of them won't, and they're just walking around, and you don't really know when one of them are going to attack you or not. You can shine your light on them, but they'll just fizzle out, and then some of them won't fizzle out. Some of them will start to spark, and then you can kill them. So you never know when you never know when you're going to be safe or not. You're constantly surrounded by danger, as you would be in the Dark Place, because the Dark Place wants Alan to keep writing, and Alan is not writing now. So it wants to keep him writing. They want him to keep writing, or just So it's one of them things of like, it's trying to fight against him. So it's but it's trying to fight against his mind, his mental state. So again, trying not to get into spoilers, but there's a lot going on in Alan's world, and you're like, oh, it's like taking ecstasy. Like I've never done it, but I can see the appeal. Not that I'm condoning it or anything, but the point is I'm trying to make is the fact it's just very trippy, but it's so great, so great. As for sort of moving on, sort of going back to story, I want to talk about the expansions. So there's 2 expansions for this game. There's the Night Springs expansions and the Lake House expansion. So I'm going to talk about the first one. So obviously, when Alan Wake 2 came out, so I've got the deluxe edition. So I've got the edition that comes with all of the DLC, cosmetics, and stuff like that. That came out a year later. So I got that last year at the end of 2024. This game came out in 2023. So when Alan Wake 2 came out, the DLC wasn't out. So you would just play the game, and then once you played it, you'd go back and you'd play sort of the DLC that way. I recommend, this is another reason why I recommend playing Alan Wake now if you haven't played Alan Wake 2 now, because while I was playing through Alan Wake, it would be the seamless sort of addition of the DLC. It's not something that you could play at the end of the game if you wanted, but like you have the Night Springs DLC, for example, and that helps in filling gaps of what is going on with certain characters that belong in the story of Alan Wake 2, but other characters that also connect to other Remedy games, which I won't give anything away. And it fills in gaps, it fills in stories, it fills in what's going on in their minds and what's going on in their stories. And it also helps when you've played the Night Springs expansions that it links into certain characters of how they connect in with directly to the story of Alan Wake 2. So like I said, it fills in the gaps, and you'll find the Night Springs expansions while you're playing as Alan Wake. As you're going for the Dark Place, you'll find TVs that have Night Springs on them, and when you interact with them, it is like, Twilight Zone, because that's basically what Night Springs is. It's like the Twilight Zone. You go into the TV and you play as certain characters, and you play their stories, and they're only short. They're like an hour long. They're not very, very long, but they're short little stories that interconnect to the overarching sort of multiverse universe of Remedy, of Control, of Alan Wake, of Quantum Break, and everything like that. So it's brilliant. Then we have sort of the bigger expansion, which is the Lake House expansion. And this can be activated by Saga a lot later into the game, which I can't go into because of spoilers, but it can be accessed at a certain point in the game. And what the Lake House is an experiment that the Federal Bureau of Control is doing, which is like that links into the rhymes that they're trying, all the big experiments they're doing at Cauldron Lake. Again, I'm trying to be vague because I'm trying to go into any sort of spoiler details. But basically that facility has gone dark. So when you go into it, again, another reason why I recommend people play Control, because there's a lot of things in the lake house that links in with the first Control. It talks about how the oldest house, which is the HQ in New York, where Control is set, has gone dark, and how it's been dark for a long time, and that nobody outside can get any information of know what's going on. So it expands the story and the lore of Control of what's going on there, but also it hints of what is to come next. Control 2, because that's what Remedy's working on at the moment. They said that once Alan Wake 2's out and shipped and done, they're moving on to Control 2. So so to play this expansion, to see how, because it's not just there as a way of going see what's coming next. No, like there is that, but there's also the fact of it does link into the Alan Wake and his story and all that. So it does all work. Like none of these expansions are there just for guff. None of them are there just to get you money or just to kind of be like, oh, we've done an expansion. No. All these expansions do link into the overarching story, because every sort of game affects each other, and this one's affecting Control and everything like that. So it all makes sense. So it is all worth it. But to have that hint of like, this is what Control 2 is potentially going to be, or what it's going to be about, or who's going to be involved, has me excited. So I love that as well. And again, when you play the Lake House, it does take things from Control. Not a lot, because again, you're not playing as sort of the lead character, so you don't have the superpowers. You can't hover and you can't pick things up and throw things. But there are certain things and gameplay things where it's like it's very Control coded, but also with an Alan Wake twist, and it's flawless and it works and it's brilliant. And that's why I recommend, like, if you're going to play Alan Wake 2, get the deluxe edition, get the DLC, play them as well, because they not just only expand the lore and the story of Alan Wake and what he's going through, but also, if you love Remedy games, it expands on what's coming next as well, and why you should be excited. So I love that. The art style is beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. As I mentioned, this engine, the Northlight engine that they use, is flawless. It is I have no other words, and it's just beautiful. It is. Remedy have been working on this engine, and I've said this many times. This is why I love when you have studios that use their own engines. So many studios nowadays are using Unreal, and that's it really. And it's starting to get boring because every game is starting to look the same. And this is why I love it when studios use their own engines, because I think they had a bit of Unreal as well, but their Northlight engine is their own engine. It's their own developed engine. So it's unique. Every Remedy game is unique to the Remedy universe, but it works and it looks beautiful, and it's just so nice. And like when you play in a saga, it's survival horror, and when you're going for the woods, it's terrifying, as it should be. The music and the sounds are terrifying, but when a taken jumps out at you and you blast them and you blow them to bits and you can see their guts and all that, that is, that's part of the terrifyingness of it. Or like when I'm in a building and the lights go off and it goes dark, and I literally am in the dark. There is maybe a little bit of light coming out from outside from a street lamp if I'm lucky, and I've got to put my torch on. Or I'm in the middle of the woods and I've got my torch, but I can see like a flicker of light in the distance. There's a spotlight, and I've got to quickly run to it because I can save my game there, or I'm safe in the light if I'm being chased by loads of taken and things like that. Like it's the art style and direction in Saga's world is very survival horror, very terrifying. But then when you get to Alan's world, and it's like you have the photorealisticness where you've got the live action, which like I said, it works. Because what I love about Remedy games as well is the fact of, like, if I'll use Saga for example, when you're in her mind palace and you're profiling somebody, she's sitting in the chair and she's sort of talking to herself as she's trying to figure everything out. But in the background, you've got the live action versions of the characters in the background, dressed in character as they look in the game, because they do a lot of motion capture for this game as well. As they look in the game, as saying they're talking to Saga behind them, but they're the live action version. That's a real human behind them, and I love that. But it works really sort of seamlessly. And I love, like I said, when you're in Alan's world, how it's so bonkers and so crazy, but so beautiful as you're going around this dark place, and it looks so. At times, it looks real. Like they've got a photo mode, and I was using the photo mode just for myself. And there are many moments when I was taking photos, I was like, that looks real. That looks like I'm in a city. That looks like I'm deep in the woods, like I'm on the Appalachian Trail and I'm lost and I'm going to be killed by some sort of skinwalker. You know what I mean? Like it was just terrifying, but so beautiful. Um, as for the collectibles as well, so the collectibles are charms, they are rhymes, they are basic. So start with the rhyme. So as I mentioned, the Federal Bureau are there, and they're trying to use rhymes and bits of sort of writings to kind of get a response from Cauldron Lake. So they want to see what happens if the rhyme is written in a certain way, and you get to read their notes, you get to read their experiments, and they're trying to figure out what is going on with Cauldron Lake, how it works, because that's what the Federal Bureau of Control does. They try to figure out how things work. So that's one collectible you can do once you figured out the rhymes, which they aren't easy. You've got to collect these little dolls as well, and once you find all these dolls, you can use them on little symbols that you find around these rhyming test sites. And then once you've done that, something will happen, something will appear. So sometimes it could be a taken could appear behind you, or if you're in a house, you'll see black footprints, and you follow the footprints, and it will lead you to a charm. Usually, it'll always lead you to a charm. These charms are little charm bracelets, as I mentioned. These things you can collect, which will kind of give you buffs in the game, that kind of make the game a bit easier, that sort of thing. But there'll always be an enemy as well. So you're basically changing reality. That's the idea behind it. Is you're changing the reality around Cauldron Lake by solving these rhymes. And once you do all these rhymes, it does link into the DLC Lake House as well, what they're doing there. So it is worth doing, because you'll get a bit of bonus sort of dialogue and information of trying to figure out what's going on in the Lake House. When you play the Lake House, a lot more things make a lot more sense. You've also got like lunch boxes as well, and you've got to figure out who's leaving you these lunch boxes, because these lunch boxes have things in them called basically they've got bits of paper in them, and these bits of paper give you weapon upgrades, and you'll want these weapon upgrades because especially if you're playing on a hard difficulty, you want to be able to, if you've got your pistol, if you hold your pistol down, you can do a semi-automatic, so it rapid fires on the enemy, which you'll want when you're getting crowded. If you've got a shotgun as well, how it does more damage at close range than from long range and stuff like that. So you want to collect these lunch boxes. And you try to find out who's leaving them, because as well as these notes of paper that's in them, there's also notes in the lunch boxes being like, oh, you're the hero that's going to save us all, or sometimes it's diary entries, and there's a case file of trying to figure out, okay, who's leaving these lunch boxes. And it took me a while to figure out who was leaving them, and when I figured it out, I was like, oh my god, I love it. But there's also you've got cult stashes as well, same sort of idea, but these cult stashes, like they leave symbols around, so you've got to use your torch and find glowing hidden symbols around the woods, and you find these symbols, and you can put these symbols together, and then you've got like locks that you've got to put different symbols on, or sometimes it's numbers as well, so you've got to do puzzles. Like, I'm not very good at maths, and a lot of these are like puzzles ones, so you've got to like work out certain equations and stuff like that. So some of them are really, really hard, and I'll be honest, the really hard ones, I went online on IGN and I just look at the code sources, because I'm not very good at maths, right? I'm dyslexic, so there's no way I'm doing these longitude and different sort of maths. So like, no, thank you, I don't like algebra. So I cheated on those ones, but the easy ones, the patterns, I wanted to do myself, because I wanted the challenge of just trying to figure out what patterns go where and stuff like that. And then you've got some that are memory ones, so like you have flashing lights, kind of like Simon Says. You've got like different lights that will flash in different combinations, and you've got to basically, Simon Says, do it in the right order, and they open. Once they open, like I said, you'll find resources like ammo or flares and stuff like that, but there'll also be notes, and a lot of the notes could be like, oh, the cult is always watching, if this doesn't belong to you, if you're not part of the cult, don't keep it. Little jokey ones, but there's also ones where it's like, if the puzzle was really hard, like the longitude latitude one, for example, there'll be a note going, I was late for dinner because this stupid fucking puzzle. Next time, just give me the code. And one of you got, so people are leaving notes of like, yeah, great puzzle, but you take the piss. I just want to get this stuff. Like, I'm in a hurry, sort of thing. Don't want to do algebra, and I felt the same. And it was funny because I felt the same. So when I'm putting the code in and I solve it, it's one of those where it's like, yeah, I feel your pain, because I feel the exact same. So there's those things as well. Alan has his own collectibles. He has words of power in his world, and in his they're hidden around where you got to find arrows, like bioluminescent arrows with your torch. You find these arrows, you follow them, and then you'll find like these round spirals that are made out of words, and you shine your light on them, and it gives you words of power. And words of power can be used to make Alan stronger, so it can give him more health. It can give him sort of better battery life on his torch. It can be used to find more words of power in the universe, in the world, and stuff like that, or objects that are usefulness. So the collectibles, they all make sense in the reality and the world of Alan Wake, but also they're worth doing because they give you more story, and like they help with getting resources and making the game a lot easier and a lot more manageable because you've got more things to deal with a lot of the problems that they throw at you. One thing I want to talk about as well is the boss fights. I know I hinted at it earlier in the gameplay. There are boss fights. It's mostly Saga who fights a lot of the boss fights, and all of them are different. All of them are mini puzzles you've got to figure out. All kind of semi sort of scary, terrifying. The scariest one though was a lot further in the game, and I can't say where it is or why. But there's basically an old lady, and she keeps and like throughout the game there's a lot of jump scares, but a lot of them, again, because I'm a big fan of horror and I'm getting better at survival horror. Some of them would get me, but not all of them would get me because some of them they were just obvious when they were going to come. But this one with this old lady, they dialed up the jump scares so much, but in such a way where it wasn't cheap, but it worked and it was terrifying. And the where you are and all that, that when you got this old lady and she just appears out of nowhere and it's horrible. It's like I'm in this one area, I walk up to this person, and I can't put any information as to where I am because it will give it away. And I'm just going to go talk to them, and this old lady turns around, says something to me, and then jump scare, and I just wasn't expecting it, and it was horrible. And I that was probably the most scared I'd been for the whole game at that one moment. And then when you got to fight her as well, her big boss fight, she's difficult, and she's actually the only boss where I generally felt I almost died multiple times. Like I generally struggled multiple times with her fight because it was difficult. Like it wasn't easy. It was very how to explain it. It was technical. There's a lot of water, and she uses the water, so you can't stay in the water for too long, or she'll come and get you and drag you down and kill you and snap your neck. And yeah, like it was a good boss fight, but it was difficult. So I just wanted to mention that as well. The sort of little boss fights that you have. As for sort of my overall thoughts, as you can tell, and it's pretty obvious so far that I love this game. I really do. And the simple reason for it, and it is quite simple, is the fact of I've been waiting for Alan Wake 2 for years, and there was a chance that this game was never going to be made because they made Alan Wake in partnership with Microsoft. Microsoft owned the license to Alan Wake, which meant that Remedy couldn't do anything with it. So Remedy had to basically go off and make other games, which is fine. Like Quantum Break is amazing and it's different and it's unique in its own way, but it's not Alan Wake. It's the same with Control. It's unique and wonderful in its own way, but it's not Alan Wake. And to finally have, and I think it works out for the best in a way because Remedy being able to work on other projects, sort of define their technology, define what it means to be Remedy, what a Remedy game means. Not what it is, but what it means. To have all them years of working on those other games and other projects, getting their ideas together, and like Sam Lake figuring out what the story's going to be for Alan Wake and properly defining it. It worked out for the best. So now that we've got Alan Wake 2, and now they've had all those years of practicing and doing other things, that it all just works. That it's seamless. And I love the idea that they want to do a huge connective universe. How like they want to bring in Quantum Break, they want to bring in Alan Wake and Control. And if they make a brand new franchise in the future, I'm sure it'll be connected. I think even Max Payne is connected to this universe as well. I'm not entirely sure. But the point is I'm trying to make is the fact of their idea and concept of what they're trying to do with this whole multiverse and how it works. It's one of the rare few multiverse ideas and stories that is currently working and that makes sense and that I'm really excited for. And I love it. I do. I'm just, as you can tell, I'm just over the moon with getting more of what I love, getting more of Alan's story. I've been waiting years to find out what's happened to Alan. He's been stuck in the dark place. So to know what's it's been going on the last 13 years with Alan is wonderful. And to figure out what's happening next and where the story is potentially going to go next now with Alan Wake 3, which I think they've said Alan Wake 3 probably won't come until 2028, 2029, which isn't that long away. But still, I wish it was tomorrow. You know what I mean? But also to know that we're getting a Control 2. So it's going to be Control 2. That's going to have its own story, but I'm sure it's going to link in somewhere with Alan Wake and potential characters that I've shown here. Like, I generally think that, and again, no spoilers, but there's a character that appears in this story that's a bit of a side character, but I feel like that character is going to play a big part in Control 2. That it's just a theory. I don't know, and if so, I hope I'm right. But I can't wait for that game. So I'm looking forward to whatever comes next from Remedy. I've even played their Control side project, Firebreak, which was a lot of fun. It's a sort of multiplayer game. That's a lot of fun, and they're trying new things, and they're just Remedy's is great. I love them. I really do. Sam Lake is brilliant. The whole Remedy team is brilliant. And I'm just in awe of them. And I just want them to keep making games. They're one of the most original studios in the business today. And that's not an easy thing to say because there's not many games that are unique anymore. They all feel the same. So to have a game that feels unique, but plays around with a genre that I'm starting to grow into and love, which is survival horror, and try something new there, but also make it very much their own. It's perfect. So yeah, overall thoughts, play this game. Play all Remedy games. Like I said, play Alan Wake if you haven't played it. The remaster is now out, so if you don't want to play the older version, play the remaster. It's always on sale on Xbox, probably always on sale on Steam as well. So play Alan Wake, play Quantum Break, because not enough people played that game. It's brilliant. More people need to play Quantum Break. Play that, play Control, play this, and I promise you, and I mean this, and I genuinely promise you that you will get enjoyment out of it because it is just that good. It's fun. It really doesn't miss a beat at all. It works, and it's possibly one of the best games I've played this year, and one of the best Remedy games I've ever played. And if this is what they're doing now at their peak, I can't wait to see what they do next. So that should kind of give you as a positive note. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to my review of Alan Wake 2. But also I want to mention as well, thank you for joining me for Halloween. I've had a fantastic time this Halloween. I've been watching a lot of great movies. It's been an absolute ball. It's been nice to be able to let loose and to be able to swear and to just have more fun than I would normally. Like I always have fun with the podcast, but Halloween is always a time of fun, and I just love letting loose on Halloween. I am hoping to do a lot more sort of scary sort of reviews as well, and obviously with the sort of adult language at the beginning, that means I can look into a lot more sort of let's say when I say adult, I don't mean adult, but you know what I mean. Sort of like films like American Pie, stuff like that. So please stick around for that and other stuff like that. But yeah, just thank you for joining me, thank you for listening. If anybody at Remedies listened to this, thank you. I know I tagged a few people, but I just want to say to Remedy team, thank you. I love it. I appreciate you all, and you're all wonderful. So yeah, that's what I've got to say now. I'm going to go and relax a bit because I've just realised this review is about an hour and 13 minutes and I've got a lot of editing to do. So I've been your host, Luke the Howdy Bean. It's been an absolute love, joy and pleasure talking to you today about Alan Wake 2. Again, make sure that you follow me on all socials, Spotify, Apple. I'm on TikTok, YouTube. Follow me on Twitter, howdybeans_pod. Do all that and more. Share this with everybody, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.